Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. My name is Rob Evans, and I'm your weight loss coach, health strategist, and internationally published author, helping transform your mindset from where you are right now to being unstoppable. And today, I'm incredibly excited because I've got a very special guest, Sarah Maxwell. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
Now, Sarah's joining us all the way from Queensland. I'm down in the dirty south of Australia in Victoria, as we're moving into our I saw something just a couple of days ago, Sarah, saying that we're now hitting the toughest restrictions in Victoria since World War II.
Yeah, wow.
That's how bad it is. Meanwhile, you can go to the gym and do all sorts of stuff up in Queensland, can't you?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty grateful actually for the freedoms that we've got, and even just the temperature, the ability to be outside and really, I saw a vision of the streets, a busy street of Melbourne with not a car on it, and I really got it.
It's crazy because we're only allowed to be within 5 kilometres from our home now. We can go out once a day for exercise. So I went out this morning and did mine. We can go to the shops once a day to get something, but that's it. You've got to take your mask. You've got to make sure you've got your ID. You've got to make sure you've got a permit if you're, like a certain worker and stuff. It really does feel like you're in prison. So it's weird.
Well, no 10K runs, Rob. Only 5K.
That's right. That's right. Hopefully people become more grateful. Sarah, I want to give you a bit of an introduction here. So Sarah is born in Canada, Montreal, Canada. And we're going to talk a little bit about your professional athlete career, which is as a beach volleyball, which is really cool on so many different fronts. You get to travel to different places of the world and play in the sand and get in front of these beautiful places. So I'm very envious of that. And you're tall to be able to do that.
I love that you think I'm tall. Thank you.
Well, you have to be, don't you? You're taller than me. So
in my sport world, I was small, Rob. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so Sarah, so you retired in 2008. You've been in Australia now for 20 years, and you met your partner Nat through the beach volleyball circuit. And what's really cool is I think how you've transitioned and what you're doing. We're going to talk about this in a bit more detail too, but I'm going to mention some of the things that you've done. And so you said you've engineered this specific games, which is now called gamification, to bring forth more experimental learning for corporate team building. And you've worked with Qantas, also doing couple relationship workshops, and even some mindset coaching with Olympians on their way to 2012. And now you've got a team of like 13,000 people that you're helping with corporate wellness and CEOs and managing directors and everything. It's really a fantastic story. And I'm just really, really curious on our show here to talk about with successful people like yourself that have been able to, because of what I do, I love athlete stories of success, and I'm fascinated. We could talk for like an hour just on training and how you used to train and your all of that kind of stuff and your nutrition. But let's start out by talking about your career as an athlete, and tell us a little bit about where you got the drive to become a pro athlete.
Thanks for having me, Rob, on your show. I really love what you're doing. I love your passion, and I really love getting to work with you in different ways. So we'll explain that later.
Yeah.
But my passion and drive, I thought about that a little bit because I was the obsessive kid. I was the one out in my backyard, repetition. And I have to say that no one else in my family was doing that, because I think my mom just looked at me and thought, okay, she's really into this. And so I remember doing it with gymnastics. When I saw the 84 Olympics, I remember thinking, I want to fly through the air like that. And so I literally never done a flip in my life. I got on top of the picnic table, thought I feel a little bit like her, and then I would just try. So I was very, I would just go for it. I remember with soccer, I started late and I would just kick the ball over, like I'd put it in the same spot and do it again and again and again and again. So when volleyball came around, in my high school, so most volleyball starts a bit later, it was like I just did everything in repetition. Like I would just throw the ball. I would try everything that I could where I didn't need someone else around in order to keep
Yes.
up with my repetition load.
Yes. So how did you get to volleyball?
Yeah, so in our school, it was a popular sport. So there had been success of other teams. And so there was these two coaches that would sort of take the grade 7s all the way up to the grade 11s, and then they'd start over again and they'd sort of roll around. So in our school, volleyball was a big thing. And I was sort of jack of all trades, pretty good at most of the things I tried. And so I thought, well, my friends are doing it. And, ironically, the thing about volleyball that got me straight away was because I wasn't the best at it straight away. And I remember coming home to my mom and saying, Mom, how come she's better than me? And it was because someone had had experience, like they'd obviously played with a parent or something. I'd had no experience. And volleyball to me is very technical. It became the thing I love about it. But initially, it's maybe natural to kick a soccer ball, but to put your hands together and do a dig, that's a weird practice motion only. You would never really do that unless you were a volleyball player.
So obviously you started out with indoor, did you? And then
Yes.
went over to beach. So what was, obviously I can see the attraction of finding water and sand and everything, saying, well, this is a nice play to hit a ball around. But how did you discover the beach volleyball?
Yeah, it's funny. So indoor volleyball is the most popular sport for girls in Canada and the United States. And
Why is that? Like you don't get that perception.
Well, imagine if you think about girls, like it's our netball. So all the girls are playing volleyball. And so for women's sport, that was really big. And so to transition to beach wasn't actually desirable to me. I had been really moving through the ranks, having lots of successes, following, there was a pattern for indoor volleyball. There was no pattern for beach volleyball. It was only introduced into the Olympics in 1996.
Yeah.
I graduated from uni in 96.
Right.
Is that true? No, I didn't. I started uni 96 to 2000. My bad. I'm trying to get older. That's not good. So in 96, it got introduced into the Olympics, and and they weren't random, but to us, a Canadian team won a bronze medal, the men. And everyone is like, who is this? And what is beach volleyball?
Yeah.
So that was a big deal, actually, that straight away there was sort of attention to beach volleyball. And my coach, my indoor university coach, was taking it on. And that's how I got introduced. She took me out on the sand. I mean, for me, she was a legend of indoor volleyball, and she wanted, she invited me out onto the sand. So for me, that was a huge compliment. I was willing to get over some of the ego, it just crushes your ego when you go onto the sand. Because you can't jump.
You can't move as fast and do all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, I know we can keep talking about volleyball all day, but I'm just curious. When you were introduced to it, what did you think your trajectory was? Like, were you thinking Olympics? Were you thinking national team? What were you thinking?
Always Olympics. I was enamored by that, and I wanted to do it in any sport. Again, I thought gymnastics. Oh no, I'm a giant. I can't do that. And then soccer. Oh no, I started too late. Volleyball was the opportunity. Yeah. And of course I fell in love with it because it's so technical and tactical, but ultimately for me, the dream was Olympic.
Yes.
And so the journey was really interesting because it was like, well, how do I keep following the thread of that? And in our country, professional sport was only hockey and baseball.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, how am I actually going to be able to do this? And so my move to Australia was really a couple of different reasons, but one of them was, Australians understand professional sport. They understand this idea that you can have a sponsor and actually say, I play beach volleyball for a living. So moving there was a big mindset decision.
Yes.
And it paid dividends because we were one of the only independently sponsored team in our country when we first did that. And that took a lot of work, but it took a lot of belief.
Yes.
So did that answer it? Like the trajectory that I took?
Yeah. So what stage did you get to?
Yeah. So we play on this world circuit and we call it the world tour. And so 6 months of the year, we train against all the teams in the world and we play against them. And we became Canada's #1 team for, I think it was 8 years, which was incredible.
Yeah, nice.
Really enjoyed that. However, again, it was Olympics. Remember, Rob? So for me,
Yes.
it was like, that was the dream. And
Yeah.
so in order to do that, we had to finish top 24 in the world. So we were always
Right.
like plugging away at that. Like, so Canada, it doesn't matter if you're the number one Canadian team. You have
Yeah.
to qualify your country.
Yes.
And so I remember some of the devastation of getting really close in 2004, but especially 2008, finishing 27th in the world,
Yeah.
which is not 24, was not as, what's the word? Not as brutal as it sounds. And what I've come to discover is everything in life is preparation for your next step.
Yes.
And so part of that was actually getting the value of going full out for a goal,
Yeah.
even when you don't attain it.
Yes.
And I think in a weird way, we are a little bit older athletes in beach volleyball. I kind of got that. I got that the message was bigger than this, and so I think that's what kept me in good stead to not fully, as they say in Australia, lose the plot when we did not make it.
I know when I'm coaching clients, whether it's on a weight loss journey or some other discussion that we're talking about, I say to them, do you know what, even if I could click my fingers like that and give you the magical, whatever transformation it is that you wanted, I said, I wouldn't do that, because it's not about that moment of there. It's about everything and who you become on the way up to that point. Because if I just click my finger right now for I have clients that want to lose over 100 kilos. And if I just did that for them now, I know that they would not maintain the 100 kilos off. They would eventually get back to where they were because they haven't learned anything yet.
That's huge, Rob. My coach actually said that to us, and it was a huge moment. He said, if I could put the gold medals around your neck right now, and we put something in the newspaper, everybody would know. But that would be it. There'd be no work. There'd be no training. There'd be no travel. Would you take it?
Yeah.
And it was really interesting, that feeling of the ego wanting to take it, but something deeper didn't want that.
And that's what I think is really powerful about what's going on, like in Melbourne with COVID right now. So I talk to people about, do you know what this is? So this is what I love about body transformation, for instance. Now, so if I use the biceps, it's hard for me to stand up and use the legs, but say your bicep, right? If you want to get big arms, like muscular defined arms, we can't just say, look, Sarah, come with me. We'll go into the gym. We'll do 2 reps. You never have to do it ever again. It doesn't work that way. In order to do this, so I've got to work out later on. I know for me to achieve what I want to achieve for my body, I have to hurt myself. And that sounds stupid, but unless I put myself through an incredible amount of pain multiple times a week, I cannot achieve the body that I want. And so what do most people do? Well, we know that 67% of Australia is overweight or obese. So most people don't want to do that. But what do we do when it comes to like our mindset and that emotional pain that we want to get into? What do? We want to run away. We want to back away. And we start teaching our kids that from when they're a baby. They start to cry, here, have a lolly. Okay, they stop crying. But you have to push into that pain. And that's what I think with this COVID right now, we have such a great opportunity to be able to push into this and become a greater version of ourselves. And I like all of my parents, my grandparents have all passed away now. And when COVID started, like back in March, I thought, wow, I wish that my grandparents were around so that I could talk to them and find out what was it like in World War I, World War II, to know what were they going through. And now we're starting to experience some of that, but we'll never experience that horrific loss of life and all that kind of stuff. But I want my kids to know that, man, look what they're doing, and they can see what's happening to my business and everything with people not being able to come and stuff. But what did I still do? So that it's building this resilience, so that then they I don't want to pass on money to them. I want to pass on skills so that they can become better versions of themselves. Like my mum always said, we're raising adults, not raising children.
Oh, I've never heard that. I like that.
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it? But I think, we've all got this great opportunity. And do you know what? You may have become a better person for not making it to the Olympics.
I think I have even being with a partner who's been to 5 Olympics and been so successful, winning a gold and a bronze, sometimes it sounds strange, but I like to share that I didn't make it, because I feel that people hear 5-time Olympian and they're like, there's this little clap. I'm like, no, you need to get that a whole life was devoted to the making of it.
Yeah.
And falling short. This is 5 times.
Yeah.
Like 4 years in between making it on your own 2 legs. Like in a weird way, it kind of gives perspective to that as well, because I think even in Australia, we've just been reliving, the Sydney Olympics with the opening ceremony on TV, and you kind of just go, you see all of these success stories, even Kathy Freeman with that amount of pressure.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we take it for granted.
Yeah. I think seeing that I was actually lucky enough to be in the stadium to see Kathy win. But when you see the footage now, knowing everything that you do, and you see her just after the race when she's like crouched down and she's got her hood off, you can see that it's nothing to do with the goal, but it's all about relief.
And just from experience and working with other athletes, this is a very strong emotion. And it's something I was actually working on later in my career, because to be honest, I wanted it to be about more than relief. And that's just a depth of what in my life I was really searching for fulfillment and happiness, and not survival. And so I get it, because I felt a lot of relief, but I also know that was because of the pressure and angst. And I thought, could there be more to this? Could we actually enjoy this more? What would that look like? So later in my life, those are some of the things that started to matter to me.
So let's have a talk about knowing what you do know now, because I know I certainly would have tackled the start of my life. But there's one thing that I wish I had done, but I'll tell you what mine is after. Tell me yours. But knowing what you do know now, what do you think you would have done differently, like from an athletic perspective?
I would have had more perspective. So I would have had more, especially in the later years, more, I don't want to say hobbies, but other things that I was passionate about, just to give my sport perspective, so that I didn't feel so attached to outcomes. At times I watching Serena and Venus Williams, be into their fashion and have a label and have business. And I think that would have helped someone like me. Was quite obsessive. So I think that could have actually helped my results. I saw lots of athletes who had kids actually shift their performance because they got perspective. So that's one thing. Another thing, I think around nutrition, we actually had a very nutrition-minded coach. He was basically like a naturopath as well as a coach. And so we had amazing instruction around food, but I think I would have doubled down more on it, because I had a lot of mindset issues around my body. So I was resisting a lot of it. And one of the things I think would have helped is more convenient nutrition, because I still have nightmares about being in China and not eating for 2 weeks while we were competing there, because just not being able to find nutrition that was working for my guts over time. And so I think convenient nutrition that I trusted, that would have been huge.
That's a good question. So particularly with your sport, there's certainly when it first started in 96 in the Australian media, there was a lot of sexualization of the female beach volleyballers. Now, ironically, the men could wear way more clothes than the women did. But did you feel pressure for the way that your body looked, not just your athletic performance, but to maintain a certain way, to look a certain way?
So many ironies. That's such a good question, because I didn't want to play beach volleyball because I didn't want to wear a bikini.
Skimpy bikini, yeah.
And so that was a big thing for me. I never wore a bathing suit in public until I was 18. So clearly I had stuff going on in that department. And I really remember thinking, beach, I think it's my vehicle to the Olympics. I think that's the way. But hell no, not doing that. And so I really got that I had a choice. There was this moment of, will I choose my fear or will I choose my dream? And I remember getting the biggest bathing suit I could find, going for maximum coverage that I could under the rules. And my brother, I have 3 brothers, my brother making so much fun of me probably part of my issues about this bathing suit. And then here's the thing, though, that I got over time with volleyball. Because we wear it all the time, and because it truly is the best thing to wear in the sand, in the heat, because you could try to wear bike shorts. It's terrible. It actually is terrible to do. It doesn't work well. It actually took all the significance out of it. I was making it so significant, me in a bathing suit. I would change when I moved to Australia and trained. I was changing in my bathing suit in the Woolies car park to go get groceries for lunch. It just was so freeing to not make it so significant. And the irony is, all the reporters want to talk about beach volleyball and the bathing suits and, you know, whatever they say about dehumanizing women. And it's like, these are some of the most educated, powerful women on the planet wearing this bathing suit because it's the best thing to wear.
Yeah.
Now that's the story. And you know what's even better? They don't even talk about it anymore. How cool is that? It's
been around for a while. Yeah. Great. I love that. Choose your fear or choose your dream. That's really powerful. The one thing that I would change when I was 16 years old or 16, 17 years old, I remember going into, I was born and bred in Bendigo. I don't know whether you know that is. That's central Victoria.
Okay.
So about 2.5 hours from where I live now. I went into our local newsagent, which also sold books. And I picked up this book, which was called The Power of Positive Mental Attitude. It was called Positive Mental Attitude. And I picked it up and I thought, wow, this is really good. And I bought it. And I never finished the book. But obviously there was something in me at that time that was really driven towards, more motivation and stuff. Now, just to give you a bit of a different insight into my past, I used to play the bagpipes.
Okay.
Right. And I was bullied a lot as a kid, and like wearing a kilt and playing the bagpipes was not a pathway to not get bullied. But anyway, when I found out that I was too small to play in any sports, I love cricket and football. I never got picked for any of the school teams. I was too small. I just wasn't good enough for it. And there was something in me that said I wanted to be successful at something. I just wanted to win a trophy in something, And so I learned the bagpipes. And then I found out that you could compete as a solo bagpipe player. And so I, at one point, was the best in Australia. And then I wanted to be a world champion. And yes, there is a world championships in bagpipes and pipe bands in Scotland each year. So that was what I wanted to get to. And I got there in 1990. We came 14th out of 28. But it was the first time an Australian band had gone overseas to compete in the World Championships. And it's very, very political. So we were never going to win, but we think we should have got in definitely in the top 10. But my point is that there was something that I started back then that I then didn't continue. And I didn't pick up reading again until I was 40.
Oh.
And I think how many years I lost and how much further ahead in my life I could be because I was only ever driven towards picking up, improvement books, how I could improve. It's really interesting. I wanted to ask you a question about coaching. How important have your coaches been?
To me, it's like second nature to have a coach and be coached. To me, it's like a sign of success in our sport because it was developing sport. The more coaches you had, the more successful you were. So I really have coaching associated with success. Other sports they're so ingrained. There's a coach that comes with it and everything. No, we actually had to go out, hire our coach, pay them to coach us. So, even when I'm training, I'm always, I love learning. So I love that somebody can give me like pointers on how to integrate it better into my body and things like that. So for me, coaching is everything. And so even when you were mentioning in the bio that I work with couples, I didn't work with struggling couples. I was working with couples who wanted to be even more amazing. Yeah. And to me, having someone coach you through that and guide you, I'm more of a facilitator than a coach, really. But in facilitating environments, like as we do one thing is how we do everything. And I feel like sport just gave this constant platform to be able to like improve yourself and test yourself and see where you were at. Whereas when I got spat into normal life, I felt like you could really go under the radar.
Yeah.
You know, like in business, you could really escape that for quite a while. Hence, I like the business that I'm in at the moment too, because there's a lot of like ability to weigh where you're at too. So, and there's team and there's a lot of similarities to sport actually. But I mean, I felt like that was lacking when I got spat out of sport, because I mean, that's what I like to create for people, ways that you can actually see where you're at and give you environments to improve yourself, to kind of flex the muscle like you talked about.
You've made such some great points there. I think years ago, go back 20 years, and I would have thought, coaching, why would you need a coach? And if you're successful, why do you need a coach? But then if you stop and you think, I always like to use Roger Federer. Like I know you've met him too, you and Nat. I'm so envious of that. And you hear him talk about his coaches, and you don't realize, because all you see is the player. But he's got, I won't reel them all off, but he's probably got 6 or 7 different coaches and a big support team around him to enable him to keep performing at a high level. But people think, he's just gifted. Well, yes, there's talent there, but he's also worked damn hard to get where he is, and he's supported by the best coaches for him to help him get there.
I have to share this because it really impacted me as a young volleyball player, watching Nat, who had already won a gold and bronze medal. And we were in a training session. She had a new Brazilian coach, because she actually had the same coach for 16 years. And this was a new guy. And I remember in this training session how a lot of the things that he was teaching after all those years and all those successes, some new stuff, right? And her openness to the coaching, I literally had a full cellular shift on that day, because my perception, I have this idea that people who are sitting on the sidelines watching life go by or watching sport, they have an assumption of how it is. But when you're actually in there on the court, you see what it really looks like. The most successful people on the planet are the most coachable and the most open. Nat was like more open than the 12-year-old on the cricket pitch. Like, that's something to get. Like, that openness is the success formula.
Yeah. And
I feel like from the sidelines, we think it's something else. We think they know it all.
Yeah.
No, you know who knows it all? The sideline people. They know it. They know the booze. And this is where sometimes an athlete can occur a little bit lackluster, because there is an openness and a humility. It's like this kind of, it almost is unexpected, because you think they should actually have more points to make.
Yeah.
But they don't. They're just so busy taking themselves on the court, on the field.
Yes.
In the race.
Yeah. One of the decisions that I made a couple of years ago was that, do you know what? I want to take, I think we all want to, especially high achievers, wherever you are, you want to go further. You want to do more. We want to, help more people. We want to succeed more. And I made the decision that, you know what? I want to improve every area of my life. So I thought, okay, how do I get the best coaches, not just in my local area, but the best coaches in the world to help me get to where I want to? And through that journey, believe it or not, is why we're having this discussion right now. And if I pull apart that little journey, so a number of years ago, I thought, you know what, I want to write a book. And I kept putting the deadline as 31st December, and I just changed the year. And so it started at 16, 17, 18. I said, oh, come on, what are you doing? This is not acceptable. And my coach said to me, stop talking about it and get it done.
Yeah.
And so that's what I decided to do. So I'd written the book, and then I was talking to another coach of mine that was helping me with the book. And he said, we need somebody to endorse the book. He said, who do you know? I said, oh, yeah, right. Well, I've interviewed Brooke Shields, but she's probably going to want at least $10,000 or something like that to endorse it. So who else do you know? And I thought, I said, what about an Olympic gold medalist? And he said, oh, he used an expletive word. He said, "Oh yeah," and I said, "Well," I said, "back in 2014, I think it was, or 2015, I said I met Kerry Pothast." And I said, just coincidentally, I just wrote an article about her and I posted it on LinkedIn the other day. And I think I tagged her in on it and she responded to it. Huh. And so then we started having a few discussions. And then in the end, Kerry agreed to write the foreword to my book. And hence, getting involved with isogenics, and then her explaining how she was introduced to it, and hence how I'm now connected with you. And do you know what? I wrote it down here before about choose your fear. For so long, fear immobilized me, and I thought, do you know what? But what if she says no? And do you know what? The worst thing that if someone says no is what? They said no. That's it. So now I use that philosophy and say, well, hang on, if you want to move your life forward, you want to surround yourself with the best people, then you've got to step outside of that fear sometimes and just take things on. Yeah, I think that's exciting. Tell me, so when it comes to high performance, whether it's what you do now, what you did before, how important is mindset?
I think I was thinking, I want to say something about fear, and I think it kind of fits into what you just said. I think mindset is 100%. I think every reality that we live it gets created in our mind first. It's where it gets visualized. So just on the fear part of things, because that's in our mindset as well, I shifted my relationship to it, because fear used to mean to me back away, literally, like that feeling of like backward stepping.
Yes.
And the thing that I've changed is a forward step. And I'm going to give you like a daily example of this. Like when I'm at the gym and we're doing something like a really hard piece of it where it's timed and you have to move from one exercise to the next, and I'm dying and I'm so tired, I notice that I just move into the next exercise. I literally step in because I've got a fear around pain and suffering. Yes. Right? So it's real. It's active for me when I'm working out. So whereas I used to think, okay, just take 2 more breaths, rest. People that when you do that, you're dying. You train people all the time. They take those really long breaks.
Yeah.
And then they start, right? I actually start straight away.
Yeah.
That's my like I've shifted the mantra to
building a muscle.
Yeah. And even at the end of a workout, when everyone lies on the ground, when it's been so hard, I never do that.
Yeah.
I never do that. I used to, because part of it's like, oh, I may never get up. That's a thing. But part of it is just keep stepping.
Yes.
Keep walking. To me, that's part of the recovery. So back to mindset. I think it's 100%, because the thing I started taking on in 2003, 4, I think, you talk about coaches. We actually got this energy healer guy. And I say that because I never even heard the word energy. So at that time, this guy came in and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what is this?
Yeah.
And it changed everything. Every freaking thing. And he was really good at kind of making something kind of intangible, tangible. But some of the things that we did was, visualize and really plot what we wanted to create in our careers. And I can't even tell you when things start to come to pass, then you're a believer.
Mm.
And that just started this whole road of really getting diligent with my thoughts.
Yes.
Really taking it on and believing it's important. And even I have a 4.5-year-old daughter. And, I said to her the other day, I said, every word that you say creates your life. I said that to her. I said, so what you're saying right now, that becomes your future, like your next reality. That becomes real. Because we have this thing, she goes, for real or pretend? And I said, no, for real. That's how it works. And so, really getting how powerful we are at generating our lives, we generate them in the direction we don't want to.
Yes.
And it's by our attention, like what we give attention to. And like, look, you're in lockdown, like the news, whew, I haven't listened to the news since 2004. And so you always find out the thing you need to know. I
Yeah, that's
promise.
right.
This is Nat and I talk about it all the time. I need to know a little bit. I need to be informed. I'm like, I always know like I know the rules of COVID at the right time.
Yeah,
People tell me, my kindy tells me, like I get the information that's critical, and all the other attention, because a
yeah,
lot of it is so fear inducing,
yeah,
and the things that I can't control. That, and by the way, that's just one area, but I'm just saying that our attention really designs our life.
yes. And do you think you've got, because I've been working with you for a while now, and you can certainly see you're very clear on your path and what you want to achieve in life and how you direct your team and everything. Do you think that you're better at that because of the fact that you were a pro athlete? Or do you think you would
I
have
think
been that way anyway?
I got more training. Like we show up every day and train certain things that people could train in other ways.
Mm,
Meaning some weekend warriors, I think, wow, they train more than we did, like, so it's not really because of being a pro athlete. The thing that really helped me was rising to my own occasion. It's like having these benchmarks to show up to really had me do more self-development, develop all areas. I don't think I would have ever done a 10-day no talking meditation camp
yeah.
if it wasn't for sport, which then helped me in my relationships,
Yes.
or so the things that sport taught me was discipline. I believe that every single thing can be achieved, like that there's steps. So no matter what I want to do, I just have to start.
Mm,
That's kind of a thing that I've always felt that sport helped me. And one thing in my business these days that I'm noticing that I've got, and I don't know if it's a sport thing, but I'm willing, I think you do this really well too, Rob. I'm willing to stand when something's not working and keep in there for what I view will happen. Meaning,
yes.
I don't even know the word for this, but I'm not in for the quick fix. So for example, in my business, I believe that I create the restaurant, and when the hungry people are ready, they will come.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't stand in that restaurant when there's
Yeah.
no people.
Because they want to stand in like a fast food drive-through and just have people just come
Bustling.
through quickly. Yeah.
Or if they don't come in the first 2 weeks, they actually tear down the restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that for me is something I've always had. And to be honest, even in relationships,
Yeah.
to be in a relationship for 20 years is really a belief that it's what we put into it, and that we're
Absolutely.
building it, and you're always moving the needle forward, and that, there's time when it gets hard, it would be easy to just jump out into a new relationship. But I believe then you're starting off, you have to build a whole new restaurant.
Yeah,
I know
that's
it
right.
sounds crazy, but I just have that kind of staying power in all areas of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't sound crazy to me. I think it's a beautiful point. Well said.
Mm.
I wonder, I'm just being respectful of your time. And I said that we would try and keep this to 15 years. We've blown that out
Have
of
we
the
blown
water.
it out? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe we should organise a time to connect on some other points. But I did want to ask you about your own health and fitness. How important do you view that in terms of you being a success
I think that,
in your life now? I don't mean
yeah, now.
pre-athlete. Pro athlete. I mean now.
I think from a pretty early age, like my first high school coach was the first one to kind of start talking about health as the underpin of every other thing. And really, like,
Yeah.
he talked a lot about what you put in your body. I remember that. So nutrition wise. And I think I've always held that, like, what is it that I can control? And it's what I put in my mouth. So in that, even through COVID, I've always felt that what's the one thing I can control?
Yeah.
And it's my morning routine. Even, and Nat and I both do it, but it's this kind of like our morning tonic, and being able to take this like aloe vera juice that we take in the morning and have our supplements, and then put really great minerals and protein in my body. Like, that's like the three things that I put in my money bank, my health bank every day. And that gives me health confidence.
Yeah.
And confidence in sport is defined, and I've interviewed a lot of athletes to get to this, is confidence is defined as knowing you've done the work. For health, I say health confidence because I know I've done the work. And then I step out into the world. I've never canceled a play date with my daughter because a person was sick. And this is way before COVID. My approach is we can only do what we can do. And then we step out into the world and we live it.
Yeah.
And that for me is something maybe I got from sport around confidence. I don't know. But for me, that's like everything, because I used to have a back injury, and in a moment, if your health is off, you are lying flat on your back and you have no control and you cannot do anything else. So you better be putting things in the bank before you're lying flat on your back.
Yeah, that's right. So what would a typical day of like exercise and nutrition look like for you?
So Nat and I trade off our exercise days. We go to the gym, and I love, like, I have this little routine where I have this like amazing natural supplement that I take right before going to the gym. It's like these green tea shots. I think you know them, Rob. And it's like just have so much focus. No, I don't even do the e-shot.
Oh, the e-shot. Okay.
Yeah. For me, that has just given me like this focus and alertness and enjoyment of my exercise. And I come home and I just feel like I'm a different person on those days. And so a typical day starts like that. Get my daughter ready for kindy. I drive her. When I drop her off, I have a podcast. So I get into some podcast stuff, but ultimately my focus is the nutrition business that we do together, health and wellness. And so being able to connect with the team and then really share the story of what it is to have health confidence with other people. So that's probably my primary focus around that team and that business. But I'm kind of a multi-hyphenate. I do a lot of different things. So ultimately it's having a really good diary that's right next to me right now that has all my hours littered out. I'm creating a new product for moms at the moment. Moms who want to take on their own life purpose and not just their kids' purpose. So things like that. You know, I'm always creating something, and I'm an entrepreneur. So I guess I've always got my hand in a couple buckets.
Yeah, nice. I did want to quickly talk to you about the isogenic side of the business.
Yes.
Because that's how you and I came to meet. And my personal experience, I mean, I'm training my own body for 32 years now. And I know that automatically ages me. But anyway, I'm proud of it. I had always felt that, quite arrogantly, that like if this is the normal population, then I live my level of health and fitness up here. And I eat a lot of plant-based food and felt that, you know, I was getting all the nutrients that I needed. And even though I kind of realized a few things that I'm about to say, I kind of just left them to one side. And it's when I introduced the isogenics products into my body. So this is about getting quality. The only changes I made were the protein powder that I was having before. I now took an isogenics one. I was taking the, like the ionics in the morning and the snacks. Where I might have been having something else, I knew that, well, okay, I'm going to have these snacks instead. So I know that they're, you know, full of all the right ingredients and all that kind of stuff. And it was probably about the third week where I started to, I can't even remember what I was doing, but it was kind of a bit like, hang on a second, I don't feel as tired now. And in the gym, my strength on my leg press went up by 60 kilos in like 3 or 4 weeks. And it was the only thing that I changed. And so then what it got me thinking about was all those things that I'd sort of put in the filing cabinet and didn't want to open and look at, was that, you know what, yeah, you're eating a lot of plant-based food, but, you know, the carrot today was not the same carrot that I pulled out of the garden when I was a kid for various reasons, genetically modified foods and everything. And it just made me think that, wow, are we really knowing what's in our food? Like we just don't have the nutrient value that we perceive is in that food, because guess what? There's no label to say, oh yeah, this is 100% nutrients in here.
Yes.
You know, when you know that apples could be sitting in cool storage for 2 years, and you think, well, how much nutrient value is actually left in that now? So it was a really big eye opener for me. You've obviously been doing it for what, 7-8 years now?
Yeah, almost 8 years.
I'm just over a year, I think, or maybe it's about a year for me. And it's certainly been a wonderful introduction to my life. I take it every day now. The supplements go into my body. Did you perhaps want to briefly talk about, because obviously you and I were on the same team, and I didn't know that until Kerry said, hey, come along here. But there's an opportunity now that we have, because we've opened up in another 14 countries or something now. Did you perhaps, maybe because you can articulate it way more beautifully than I can, about what the opportunity is for people to come and join our team if they want to spread the good word of health?
I actually think you did an amazing job, because what I've learned over these last 8 years is the power is our own experience, what we live. And that's where the marketing dollars for this company go, in how we just share our experience. And the more kind of schlick and weird we try to get about it, it's worse, because people just resonate with real stuff. And so for me, having been a professional athlete, the thing that I was ignoring was, even though I ate all organic food and all natural and did all that, I was always a mild bloat happening. I was bloated. And I didn't want to face that, because I felt that that was just my lot in life.
Yes.
And even the way that my body was, that's just my body's shape. And look, within 30 days, I guess I disproved all those years that body shape was indeed not permanent. And so the energy was the thing. And the 5th day, I just thought, I actually didn't know I didn't have energy. But what I had was hyper energy before. This was kind of like this. It almost felt like motivation. And I know that's like a mindset thing, but that's how it translated. Having more energy in my body felt like my brain was working. And so it was an incredible experience, because deep down, and this is what, especially working with a lot of women, is we make these stories up about who we are and our body. And they're actually not locked in concrete the way we think they are. And that's what kind of gets shifted over the first 30 days. And then 8 years on, being able to like how something tastes and have it be part of your identity, for me, is where the real power happens. And we, in the company, we have these long-term studies that were done, and it's quite rare to have independently done long-term studies. And what they show is that what I'm feeling is actually scientifically provable, that our bodies do deepen. They actually do rid impurities at a deeper level. And being able to prove that is pretty exciting. I mean, we're feeling it, but I guess to prove it is pretty amazing. So in order to, like Nat always says this, you just will never know until it's in your body. Because the funny thing is, you had the leg press story. I'm thinking, I don't have that story. I was doing yoga. That's all I was doing. I was doing yoga at that time. I wasn't doing any weights. And I would not even have thought it was a thing until the person that was coaching me through my program said to me, so how's your yoga going? And I got this image of my yoga teacher saying to me, wow, your practice is really coming along. This subtle little moment that I would have even negated. I wouldn't even have realized. And so whether it's your yoga, whatever it is for you, whether it's focus when you're working, like I'm working with a woman at the moment who has 3 businesses. And she said to me, I actually have the focus for all of them. I'm on fire. That's her experience. She couldn't relate to my story until she had her own. So that's what it is for everyone. You just have to try for yourself.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I think that a lot of business people, entrepreneurs, confuse energy for adrenaline. And a lot of them are on that next wave of, oh, I got the sale, or I got the, whatever it is. And that's adrenaline when you get that. And people ride that wave and say, oh, no, I don't have any problem. But the reality is they don't have true energy. They don't have true health.
And let me just say, the word adrenaline has the word adrenals in it. And so you're all those people that have adrenal fatigue. And adrenal fatigue is deep hormonal fatigue in your body. And when you get there, then you have to do things quite differently, meaning to exercise actually puts you back a year. Like you have to really get on top of adrenal fatigue. And so I'm with you, Rob. I can see I call it hyper energy, jittery energy, a mile away. And for those people, I love to chat to them about, imagine what it could be like to actually just feel sustained. Like, oh, you can exhale.
Mm.
And everything just happens on time.
Yeah.
And you don't feel that kind of feeling of, literally, it's a feeling, but you can feel the person coming.
Yes. I mean, I've put a lot, this sounds wrong. I've put a lot of different things into my body over the years in terms of supplements and protein powders and bars and so forth. The different ones that I use now, like the Nitro, for instance, pre-workout, I've never had anything like that before. And that in itself creates focus for me.
Yeah,
A
okay.
supplement.
Cool.
It's the creatine, it's the caffeine in it that just, and the right formulation. It's not artificial. It's all natural. It's like, it's boom. It just hits something like 30 minutes in. So yeah, over 30 minutes beforehand. And it's really, really powerful. And I've spoken to Shani, so current, gold medalist, and she says the same thing. She says it's really powerful. Yeah. So these supplements are amazing. So I look for anyone that, if you're interested in knowing more about that, you can go to the mentaltoughnessandbodyshow.com. Scroll to the bottom, you can opt in for a free consultation with me personally, and we can go through that in a bit more detail. Sarah, we need to bring this into a landing because we've got other things to do. I'm so grateful for your time today. Can you tell us, how can people get in contact with you? Because you've obviously got your own podcast, you've got your own programs and everything. What's the easiest way for people to get in touch with you?
Maybe on the website, inthegamecoaching.com. I think that'd be the easiest way, inthegamecoaching.com.
Okay.
My name is Sarah Maxwell. You can look for me on LinkedIn if you want, but I think off the website might be the best way.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. Well, Sarah, look, we could keep talking for hours. So this is really cool. This is the most in-depth conversation we've had before. They're normally like snippets here and there. So it's been really enjoyable. I'm so grateful to you on so many different fronts because, well, one, you and Nat introduced Kerry, and without that connection, I wouldn't have my book. I wouldn't have now the connection with Kerry. I wouldn't have the products in my own body. And now I really do feel privileged to be able to work with yourself, and the leadership that you provide to the team each week is just really amazing. And so I just wanted to, thank you for that part of what you do, because it's really incredible. And obviously being on the show here today is really special for me as well. So
and I just want to sneak in an acknowledgement of you, because what I love about this business is that you kind of described, that 6 degrees of separation. Through this kind of economy, you can actually access people that you may never get the chance to. So Rob, I love that you see that we get to be in each other's sphere, and now you get to coach people to their best self from all the experiences that you've had. So thank you for having me on, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Sarah. We'll have to do this again. I really loved it.
Awesome.